If you thought the suffering was over, suffering being the Hellraiser review series, then you are gravely mistaken. Your suffering will be legendary, even for YouTube.
Hellbound, Hellraiser 2 stars Ashley Lawrence, Claire Higgins, Doug Bradley, and is directed by Tony Randall. So what's up, guys? We're continuing the Hellraiser review series. I did the first Hellraiser months and months ago, and then I picked up on the Child's Play series, and it took me a couple months to finish those, and now we're back to the Hellraisers. We're going to do Hellraiser 2. And we're going to go all the way through the series. I've only seen the first 3, so I haven't seen anything after that, so these will all be new for me after part 3. But I barely remember part 3 really too, so these are going to be fun. Anyway, I just finished watching Hellraiser 2. Wasn't sure if I wanted to do a spoiler-free review or give you spoilers, so I actually posted it on Killer Flicks, and unanimously everybody said go ahead and just make it a spoiler review. So that's what we're going to do. I mean, this is an old movie. I'm sure some of you might not have seen this. Even if you haven't seen this, with the spoilers, you can still go and enjoy this movie, okay? I'm not gonna like completely give you the whole movie, but I'm gonna talk about some scenes that some might consider spoilerific, just because they stand out to me. So anyway, on to the review. So Hellraiser 2 picks up right where the first Hellraiser left off, and there's one piece of the equation that needs to be gotten rid of, and that is the mattress. Without that mattress, we probably wouldn't have Hellraiser 2. But if you remember Julia from the first movie, she really is the main antagonist of this movie, and she wants to be set free, just like Frank was wishing to be set free in the first movie. And so this really idiotic doctor is just obsessed with really hell and the occult, and he hears the warning of Kirsty that, hey, we have to get rid of this mattress. And so he becomes curious and ends up releasing Julia. Now, first off, let's talk about the characters of this movie. Claire Higgins, who plays Julia, like I said, she's the main antagonist, and she's great, actually. Frank was awesome in the first one, but she really holds her own in this one. And just like in the first movie, lust plays a major role in Hellbound. She uses her sexuality, even with her skin completely off, to seduce the doctor into bringing her bodies and eventually coming into, full form. And just a sidestep and talk about the story for a second. Clive Barker actually wrote most of this story. And originally he wanted Julia to become the Hell Queen, but the reception of Pinhead from the first movie was so strong and so positive that they completely scrapped that idea, and Pinhead was the ultimate king of the Hellraiser series. Can you imagine if this would have been the last movie with Pinhead? You would have had some really unhappy people. But also, Ashley Lawrence returns as Kirsty, plays another major role. She's awesome in this. And I think for every horror franchise, you have to have a really strong final girl or heroine. And just like Alien has Ripley, just like Nightmare on Elm Street has Nancy, Hellraiser has Kirsty. She's not in all the movies, but the movies that she's in, I imagine, are the best. She really has this likability to her. She's a good actress. And for the role that she's playing, she would have to be really psychotic, and she is. Now, there is another character, Tiffany, who really is the female version of Brad Pitt. I mean, look at her. She looks just like Brad Pitt. She is kind of a con to me in this movie, and she does play a major part because she is obsessed with puzzles, and her character is important because she opens the box. But really, she doesn't talk throughout most of the movie. And in the end, I found her uninteresting. And I've already given you a con, but oh well, it happens. But really, the biggest thing I love about Hellbound is the last act. I mean, they go for broke. This is a big set piece. If you remember the first movie, it felt kind of small scale. Most of the last act took place in the house. This takes place in this Leviathan. It's this huge, like MC Escher-esque, maze-looking structure. And that scene really made me think it would be interesting if they did a remake of this movie today. Oftentimes, I'm against computer effects in horror movies, but I would be really curious to see what they could do with computer effects with that Leviathan scene today. But so much is going on in that scene, and you have the creation of another Cenobite, who we would refer to as the Channard Cenobite. Channard is the actual doctor that brought Julia back to life. and who is obsessed with the occult and hell, and he becomes a Cenobite. And this is the first time where we see somebody actually take on Pinhead and his crew. But to me, that was one of the strongest scenes in the movie. We get this revelation that, hey, the Cenobites, they were once humans. And the Channered Cenobite, he defeats Pinhead and his gang, and then we get to see them in human form. And that was actually pretty interesting because one of them was actually a kid. And before we get into the cons, let's talk about the violence in this movie. That's one thing that the Hellraiser series delivers in spades. And this movie came out in 1988, and it shocks me that the Friday the 13th movies are completely butchered by the MPAA, and I'm sure that the unrated versions of those films still don't hold a candle to how bloody the Hellraiser films are. That's why the MPAA never made any sense to me whatsoever. It's completely ridiculous. But this movie is really bloody. It's really creative, actually. And watching all these practical effects on screen, it definitely gives you an appreciation for visual effects designers, artists. And I can imagine how cool it would be to work on a project like this because you can get really creative because this doesn't really take place in our world. It takes place in kind of a fantasy world. Now, as far as any cons, I would say that this movie gets a little bit too ambitious for its own good. And there are a lot of scenes where it looks like they just left for the day and then they fixed it in post. Meaning they probably inserted a matte painting or something in the background because there's a lot of scenes in that Leviathan that are painfully obvious. But overall, guys, I'm still going to give Hellbound Hellraiser 2 a purchase worthy. If you are a Hellraiser fan, then this is essential viewing. There's a lot of fun to be had with this one if you can open your mind a little bit because, like I said, some of the visual effects are a little shaky, but it's still really inventive and kind of refreshing. So anyway, what are your thoughts on Hellbound Hellraiser 2? Looking forward to hearing them. Also, come on over to Killer Flicks where we talk horror all day, every day. And on Fridays, we have Free For All Fridays. If you look down below, you can see all my social media links. If you like what I'm doing, please click that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. And
We have such sights to show you.